Today, my parents are celebrating 40 years of marriage. And I took it upon myself this past week to put it out there on social media what questions you guys had about marriage, especially 40 years. What makes it work? So today, I'm going to be asking you some of those questions. And it's so good to be here with you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
40 years is a big deal.
Thank you. It is. It is. And we couldn't be more honored for you to be here with us at this point in our lives and in our marriage. So thank you for agreeing to do this as well.
Yeah, glad you did. Good.
Yeah.
So we don't know what you're going to throw at us, but we've got some questions we've heard. And,
Okay. Well, the first one's easy. It's just an icebreaker. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So here it is. 56 Chevy or 56 Ford?
Well,
That's your question.
Yeah. Well,
but I do have some input on that. I think.
Yeah. You know, of course, I'm a diehard Chevy guy, so yeah, I had to go 56 Chevy by all means. But 56 Ford, I'm going to try not to trail off on any of these questions today, but already I'm digressing. Anything from 1956 and earlier, Fords are good. I'll leave it at that. But still, 56 Chevy, yes.
Okay. Well, I need to back up because I think why that question is in here, and as it relates to marriage, is many years ago in high school, he was known for his truck. He always had an amazing truck. And what year was that truck?
That was a 1965 Chevy short bed.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he had this thing tricked out. If you knew Larry Seratt, you knew Larry Seratt had a cool truck. One day after school, the thing is in high school, it's a small town, so everyone knew each other. And he moved there, I'd say, well, end of sophomore, you went there all of your junior year,
Yeah,
correct?
junior, senior.
So I knew of him, but I didn't know him personally. I think in the high school years, we only talked on 2 different occasions that I remember, and this was one of them, that we had a conversation. It was after school one day, and
You're going to tell this story.
I am going to tell this story. I'm never going to let him forget it.
You haven't.
Nope, I even know the story.
This has been like 50 years ago. Well, not 50, but it's
Okay. Yeah. I'm okay. I hope no bitterness. No bitterness.
Clearly, that's why we're still talking about it.
Well, it was after school, and I had 3 choices to get a ride home. I was either going to have to. I'm a freshman in high school. I'm too big to ride the bus, so I was either going to have to ride the bus. Someone could take me home that went right by my house, or I would have to wait for my dad after football practice, which was 2 hours. I see Larry in this truck, and his girlfriend at the time is in the truck with him.
Well, she wasn't my girlfriend.
Well, you were dating her, and right? I mean, kinda. She was sitting next to you in this truck.
Well,
So you guys were going out because I know her. She was my friend, so I know that you were. But nevertheless, I asked you if I could have a ride home, and you said, "Yeah, jump in." And I said, "Great." And I go around to get in the car, and in the meantime, she said, "No, we're not taking her home." And so by the time I got over there, you said, "Sorry, I can't take you home." She said, "No."
Are you sure I said it like that?
Yeah, you did. And so anyway, long story short, fast forward. I stood there, I said, well, it was. I thought it was harsh. And I'm like, you just take me home? She said, "No, I'm sorry." She said, "No." And so anyway, I'm like, "Are you guys kidding me?" And you said, "Nope," and boom, you took off. So I stood there and I had to wait for my dad. So anyway, years later, I have an opportunity to buy you a 56 Chevy. And I did that 2 years ago for Christmas. I was able to buy him a 56 Chevy. It's actually in the process of being restored. And I told him, somebody asked us one time, how do you keep the passion and fun and adventure alive? Well, this is just one of the ways that we plan to do that. And we're having this truck restored. And I told him the other day, I cannot wait when that truck is restored to go up to your window and say, "Hey, Larry, you think you could take me home?"
And I will say absolutely.
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 Absolutely. For the rest of my life, you can
Amen.
take me home in that truck.
Okay, I think we should start at the beginning. This was, I don't know actually. When did this occur? Was it before or after when you guys met? Like, how did you meet?
Yeah. Boy, we're going to keep all this stuff really quick, aren't we? Bottom line is, I was raised here, grew up here. And my dad had an opportunity to go work at a nuclear power plant that was being constructed in northeastern Oklahoma. And so obviously we moved from here, from the valley here in Phoenix, and moved to that northeastern part of Oklahoma. And I landed there my junior year. I spent my junior and senior year there, and that's where I got to, I knew who she was. It was a small school. I knew who she was, but we never even talked, like she mentioned a couple of minutes ago, really. And her dad was a football coach, high school football coach, like she mentioned. She had a brother in my same grade, but other than that, we didn't date, So it was several years later, 3-4 years later, after I graduated high school, which I moved back out here in Phoenix. Then I moved back to Oklahoma temporarily, just to work. And long story short, all of that, she attending the Assembly of God Church in that little town, and my parents attended, and I started going there, and the rest is history.
Yeah, when I would come home from college, of course, I would go to church, and in that time, my mother first got to know your family when you all moved here because she taught his sister Diana. So that's how they got to the church. I think Mom invited your family. So in college, every Sunday, Diana and I were great friends. She loved me, I loved her.
That was my younger sister.
Yeah. And so after church, every Sunday she would wait on me, and we would talk, and I would notice her shoes and her clothes and everything. So I got to know.
Because, I'll chime in, she was always dressed like a doll.
Yeah.
Always dressed like a doll. And she had some challenges, and but you know what? She loved me, I loved her, I got to know her, and your mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
And just out of, just kindness, I would say. Now, how's Larry? Because you weren't living in Oklahoma at the time, right? Mm-hmm. And I would always ask about you, and little did I know his mom was always going home after church and saying, you know that Carie Keys girl, she asks about you every Sunday. And so I got to know his mom and dad in such a special way during those years that you weren't even around. I knew your mom and dad and Diana, and so that was kind of special. So then you come back, and it was that summer. It was the summer of '82, right?
Yes.
It was the summer of '82 that he came back. I was home from college, and basically everyone in our youth group had either had a boyfriend or girlfriend, or they were married, and so we were the only two single people, and we just found each other to be great company, and we became absolutely best friends that summer. Mm-hmm. And I have a picture here. I found this. This was the summer of '82, and
don't get a real tight shot on that.
And we had a luau.
For you, but not me.
No, I love it. I love this picture. It's the only picture that I know of during that time, that summer that we were dating, that we even have. But
I didn't dress like that. It was a luau.
It was a luau.
Like you
it was
mentioned.
in my mom and dad's backyard, and we had all the youth group over, and we had this luau. We actually weren't really even dating then. We were you came over and helped me put the whole luau and party together, and so anyway.
It was a youth event.
Yeah. So that was the summer of '82, and we became best friends. We had so much fun that summer, and it was great because it was just strictly platonic, and it was just fantastic. I think every relationship should start that way. I think you first have to be friends. So I'm so thankful that we got to start out that way, and then things progressed from there. But that's how and where we met.
Okay, Pa, how did you know that she was the one?
Yeah. It just initially, it's easy to be magnetized to her, granted her beauty by all means, but it's real easy to see the depth within her spirit, her soul, and she was extremely kind, extremely gracious, and good conversationalist, and it's not that I don't believe in love at first sight, and I'm sure it happens to some people by all means. But I think love, even if it is love at first sight, it's got to grow, it's got to burgeon, And so, starting out as true legitimate friends, 100% platonic, it was, and it just, as that just began to build and grow, I thought, wow, this young lady is the one I could easily and desire to spend the rest of my life with. So, so that's how I knew, is just that eventually it's like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life with anyone else. Because, more typically ladies, more typically young girls, by the time, they're in their 5, 6, 7 years old, they start playing house and they're already thinking about, one day you're going to get married and all that. Whereas guys don't really think about that. Boys don't, guys don't, even in the teenage years of growing up for guys, they really don't normally. But by this time, I was 20, 21 now. Yeah. I think just turned 21 when we met and started spending time together. I already knew that, I wanted to get married, wanted to raise children, have a family, and I already kind of had a little criteria, and I just started realizing, wow, she doesn't not only fits all of that, but above and beyond. So I know it's a long, convoluted answer kind of, but it took time where it became, this is the one. This is the one. So
He was, if I may, he was a little more sure of that. I was pretty sure he was the one for me. I was pretty confident of that, but I just needed a little bit more time. And one of the things your dad, I don't know if you know this or not, but your dad was one of your secret weapons. My mom and dad became your mom and dad's best friends. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said earlier, I'd gotten to know my in-laws, my future in-laws. I didn't know it at the time, but I got to know them before I really even got to know him. And if you look at Wayne Seratt, he has everything, the thing is, you got the very best of your dad and you got the very best of your mom. Your mom is that funny, her family is so funny and so witty, and just, you got all of that from her. And then you got all of the, everything I just love about you is from your dad. And it's funny, and you've probably heard me say this, and it's a backhanded compliment. If he's doing something that I'm not quite thrilled about, I will say, if you could just only be a little bit more like your dad, that would be perfect. And so anyway, your dad, just by knowing him, my dad loved your dad. Yeah. And anyone that knows him knows that he's one of the finest men on the planet. And I knew that you could, an apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I knew that you had to be a lot like him. And I found this the other day. I have to read it to you. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, you brought.
Well, I found this the other day, and I thought it was worth sharing. It's from your dad. It's a note he wrote me. It was actually when we had broken up, and I know. He said, I'm not going to read all of it, but this part he said, if by some unknown hand of fate I was chosen for my son to find his lifelong mate, and I could choose any girl under the sun, Carie Keyes would still be my choice number one. Yeah. So, how did I know he was the one? I knew before I went into it what his family was like. That was important to me. I think it's so important and so unfortunate if people don't take the time to get that figured out, because it's a huge portion of your marriage, and whether you want to admit it or not, it is. And I think that was extremely important. You knew my family.
Yeah, great, wonderful people.
And I knew your family, so I knew that was, okay, we are solid there. And the thing about his mom and dad, I always felt like a daughter to them. I didn't ever feel like a daughter-in-law, never did. I felt accepted and loved and welcomed into their lives and into their home, and that's massive for me. So you had that working in your favor. And then there was another time when he gave me a minute, but I had him write this down. He said, we were actually broken up at the time, and we were sitting in Ulaga Lakeside Bank parking lot. And in that conversation, you said, I'll give you all the time you need, but I will tell you one thing. I will marry you. And I secretly liked that boldness and that confidence, but I'm like, I was playing it off. It's like, really? Okay, well, I tell you what, I'm going to have you write that down. And he said, all right, give me some paper. So I pulled this paper out of something. It was from a graduation.
You still have that?
I still have it.
Really?
And it says,
Wow.
I am going to marry you. I said, date it. I want you to put a date on it. And I want you to sign it. So you signed it and you put 5/25/83. So the summer of '82, we became friends. And then in May of '83, you said,
so a year later.
I will marry you.
On that,
That's
I
cool.
had no
Yeah.
idea you still had that.
I
I remember
do.
the moment it happened and everything. Because by that time, which I didn't mention this earlier, but just real quick, by that time, the Lord had spoken to me that she was the one I was to marry. And that came through about a year of constant prayer.
And I was doing the same.
And I wasn't praying, oh, Lord, change her heart so she'll marry me.
No, I was praying the same.
was
I
just,
needed to know.
Lord,
I
I need to know because because I don't want to keep this up if it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
So when the Lord irrevocably spoke to my heart, so clear, so clear. And I've always been cautious of that, even though being in ministry now for and preaching, teaching the gospel for almost 40 years too, or 35 plus. Very few times, and people who've been around us, me, and been in this ministry at all, they know that every Sunday I don't say, the Lord told me this, the Lord told me that,
Right.
the Lord told me this. I've only said it a few times over decades, and it's not that the Lord doesn't speak, He does, but when I refer to that, it's like undeniable, irrevocable, ironclad certainty that this is the Lord that spoke. Yeah. And He did at that time. And so I just knew, okay, it was a done deal. So yeah, we were even broken up. So that was great faith, But anyway, so.
Yeah. So anyway, I have it. I have proof. You said
Yeah.
it. And let's see, that was...
That's impressive you still have that. I didn't know you still had that.
That was May of '83.
Yeah,
and we
May
got
25th.
married in February of
84.
'84.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
And I think it's important what you said. You had your own relationship with God
absolutely.
individually.
Yeah.
We've all seen it, but people get married and
I think you're going to fix someone, and
Right.
maybe when we get married, they say they're going to go to church with you. No, we had to have that solid from the get-go.
Yeah.
Um,
So any singles out there, watching this, listening to it,
yeah.
you can't, it's really this as simple as this. If God can't change them, you can't. So if they don't want to serve God now while you're dating, they don't want to serve God now while you're engaged, they ain't going to serve God
Yeah.
after you get married. Because as a matter of fact, it usually starts to unravel after that as far as a nicey relationship level. So yeah, don't kid yourself, don't fool yourself. Find someone's out there. Find that one that God would have for you, obviously, but that one that wants to serve God, has your core values, your spiritual core values first, and then go from there. Mm-hmm. Because those other things can change, but that the spirit, which is eternal, obviously, and which is the most important, that has to be up front. The book of Amos says, how can two walk together except they be agreed? So there has to be that agreement in that area.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so you both just touched on each other's parents, which once you get married become in-laws. And one of the questions was, how do you navigate issues or situations that come up with in-laws? How do you set boundaries, etc.?
I think I just pretty well answered that by, it really helps before you get married to know the dynamics of your future in-laws. I think it's hugely important. And if you're good with that, if that works, half the problem solved right there. I think for the most part, as far as you all are concerned, maybe you could weigh in on this, but we enjoy being with each other. I know holidays can get tricky when you start getting married and having kids. You just have to work those things out.
Yeah.
They're really easy to work out. They should be.
Yeah, and granted, there are difficult
Yeah.
cases too. I'm sure people have it. You take the case of, okay, you got a husband, wife who serving the Lord faithfully, etc. But one set of the in-laws are actually outlaws. But one set of the in-laws, they don't serve God at all, and they're contrarian to even where be it their daughter or son, stands with God and Christ. So
Yeah.
that's when it gets tricky.
And divorce, whatever.
Yeah.
It can get very complicated. So,
But bottom line, it comes down to this: when of course, the Bible makes it very clear that a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave unto his wife. And some would say, well, that means then, of course, then the wife will always be at her mother. No, it doesn't mean that, because the man being the leader, the wife follows. So you always want to maintain relationships, by all means, with your family members, your in-laws. But at the same time, you are your own family nucleus right now. Mm-hmm. And there again, if some of the in-laws disregard where you stand when it comes to Christianity, that's another issue you're going to have to navigate around or navigate through. And many times right there, it's just, the husband needs to draw the line, or if it's the wife, draw the line and say, you know what? We're not going to subject ourselves and our children to that environment. And then you tell your in-laws that. It's really that simple. You just have a nice, cerebral, non-emotional conversation about it. To me, that marriage is, obviously it is this multifaceted issue of so many varied components that you have to factor in and then kind of wrangle them, keep them together, cohesive. But one of them is conversation. And let's just talk about this. What's best for our marriage?
exactly.
What's
That's
best
it.
for our marriage and our
kids.
children and our family?
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point, then you navigate.
That's good.
And if you have to, move.
Many times, moving to another state might be the remedy, and it's the truth,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But
what?
you're right. It's your family.
Yeah.
You've got to figure out what the boundaries are for your family.
Yeah.
Know what you want for your family. Know what your family goals are, and then just start making it work.
I know for me, my in-laws aren't believers, and I'm just pretty vocal when they say something that I
There we
do
go.
not agree with. Like, we don't speak that way. We don't speak that
Right.
over our children, and it's never
Exactly.
really been an issue.
Yeah.
Honestly,
There
most
you
of the
go.
time they're more like, oh, they don't even
And
realize
it's
what
nice
they're
that
saying.
they're
and it-
respectful of that.
For sure.
That's very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so everyone wants to know. We were in a store the other day, and it came up that you're celebrating 40 years, and everyone's question is, what is the key component? What's the secret sauce to not just staying married for 40 years, but being happily married for 40 years?
Yeah. I'll give that one to you. You
Oh
got it.
my. That is a question that
Oh.
when you hit 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you're going to be asked the same question, because these days
Yeah.
marriages aren't lasting that long.
They're not even getting married now.
It's very, very confused right now. So
Yeah.
the secret sauce, if you will, to put into a word is kind of very difficult, but I will say it started back in the summer of '82 when we became friends. And we started as friends, so we obviously had many things in common that we enjoyed doing together, and I can't imagine being anything but that. I can't imagine not being friends. So I think that is just a key component that continues to grow, and I think and one more would be communication. A lot of people think communication is more important, but I think friendship is the most important.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I think communication is highly important, and I think you can get good at it. I know you can. I know we have. And I think that's huge, that people want to lean in and get better at communication. I think it's necessary and vital
Absolutely.
to have a successful and happy. And happy isn't, I heard you stress that word, happy.
Yeah.
One time, very quickly, somebody was in a conversation, and I heard this one thing. It was our first year of marriage, and that was for me the hardest year of marriage. I had this conflict going on, and I thank you for being patient with me and praying me through that. And it's just a beautiful story of how you did that. But there was a period in there I wasn't sure. I thought, if I were going to get out, this would be the time to go. There are no children. We could just part ways amicably and just go our separate ways. So that first year was really hard for me, because I was toying with that idea. And I think at whatever year it is for anyone, whatever day it is for anyone, if you're toying with the idea of getting out, then it's always an option. So somewhere in that year, I overheard a conversation. It's one of those conversations when you when you're present, but your mind is completely somewhere else. This lady said, you know, the thing is, when I made up my mind to stay married, I was okay. And I thought, it's that simple. I've just got to make up my mind that I'm going to stay married. Quit going in and out. Quit having this as an option. Just make up my mind to stay married. But I wanted to go a little further than that. I said, I am going to make up my mind. I'm going to stay married. I don't want to just stay married. I want to stay happily married. And that was important to me because I've seen many marriages, we're going to stick it out. We are
Stay
not,
together for
we're
the
going to
kids.
stay together. Yeah, but we are so miserable.
We are miserable and unhappy, but I'll be John Brown. We're going to stay married. It's like, oh, that's not a marriage. That's a life of misery and torture.
Well, and it's not healthy. Like research says, it's not even best for the
I
kids.
know.
No.
I know.
So I didn't want to just stay married, and because I'm not a quitter, I'm not a quitter.
No.
And
No.
I didn't want to just stay married. I wanted to stay happily married.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that attracted me to him, there are many, I saw in your notes that was one of the questions. Shall we just go there?
Oh, the qualities that you like most about each other?
Okay, let's
do
go
it.
there. What are the qualities and that I like most about you? You want to hear them? Yeah. Okay, where do we begin? I would say first and foremost would be, well, I don't know that these have an order. Don't put these in an order. This is one of my most favorite qualities about you, and that's your brain. You have a very brilliant brain. Your mind is amazing, right?
Yes.
It's just so fascinating. And you've taught me so much. And the conversation, I don't think you can have intelligent conversations if it's not in your brain somewhere. So, I mean, we have wonderful conversations, but the thing I love about him is, well, this room alone, his study is full of books. You know, there aren't 5 TV screens on the wall that have all the different, sports games going on right now. Everywhere you are, there's a pile of books.
No video game consoles either.
No video game. Nope, never done that. And so I love that about him. We have books everywhere, and they're not just, they're read. You've read them, or we've read them. I think you're reading one that's like this thick right now, The House of Morgan. So anyway, it's your brain. I love your brain. I love your heart. I've told Liz, I said, how sweet it is to be loved by you. And if you love someone, you love deep, you love hard, you're passionate, and you're loyal. And if someone is fortunate to be loved by you, it's an incredible thing. And so your heart is just amazing. And I think the thing that attracted me in the beginning to you was anywhere he was, there was laughter. He was always the life of a party. And so if you clear out the center of the circle, like, what's going on over there? He'd be right in the middle of it. And so I've always been attracted to, again, like from your mother, that humor and that whole side of your family is just very funny, very brilliant people. And so your sense of humor and your vim and vigor and discipline and zest for life, it's contagious. And I've been infected by that, and I'm okay with that, and it's just wonderful.
Even still, when the kids are here, they'll be out there with Pa just cracking up.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just.
Oh,
let's
God
see.
bless
I can
you.
keep going. Would you like me to keep going?
That's a wrap. Wow. God bless you.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned a couple character traits, and I could go on and pontificate, but I know time is getting away in some regards. But yeah, I mentioned earlier, like your kindness. It to me, that's no small thing. I think if one thing our society lacks is kindness, like never before. There's so much mean-spiritedness and hatred and vitriol out there, but your kindness, gentleness, and also having that firmness of what you believe in, what you want in life, goals and desires you had in life, so that the strength combined with that gentleness, and there again, just the kindness, which just, I could go on and on just about that and trail off on it, but mentioned Diana earlier, my youngest sister, who's now in heaven. Of course, along with my mother and father too, we've talked about already. Of course, your dad is in heaven too. But my younger sister Diana, she, as you well know, Liz, she was born with severe physical and mental handicaps, and anyway, is I always predicated my friendships as far as guys I hung out with how they treated Diana, how they respected her, how they even would stand up for her along with me and all that. And so it was with, just a few of the girls I dated over the years. I mean, just a couple girls I dated. That to me, that was a litmus test. Mm-hmm. And from moment one, you were just so kind and so gracious, and you genuinely cared for her. So wow, that just opened up my love and admiration for her, and then I could go on in so many other areas. But yeah, just it's kind of like the story goes, is that when the the groom's standing up there at the altar, and then when the bride comes down and they're about to start the actual ceremony, people out in the congregation, people out who are attending the wedding, they start whispering, saying, "How in the world did he get?" So it's like, yeah, I always said I married up across the board.
I don't think anyone in our hometown would have seen this one coming. Do you?
No, because I was in my junior and senior year. I was in a rebellious stage of my life. I never, rebelled, went to the point. I never did the drug thing or anything like that, but just, I didn't want to move out there. So a lot of rebellion started coming up, and it manifested different ways, and to where a lot of my guys I hung out with my senior year, they voted me most likely to be in prison. So...
Joke's on them.
That's right. Most of them are, and you're not.
Yeah, many of them that I did hang out with. So yeah, no one saw that one coming, but God. God. So yeah, just realizing that she was so precious and wonderful, and had all of these wonderful components about her in life. I thought, wow, I'm so thankful to this day, 40 years later, more in love with her than ever, and more thankful to God. Let me come back to that, because I didn't answer it. As far as some people saying, what's the key ingredient, secret ingredient, kind of like that. Like in everything in life that has its complexities, which of course marriage does, and I don't say that in a negative way. I say that in a as positive as I possibly can when I say the complexities of marriage. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21, where it says, "Submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God." Verse 22 says this, "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husband as unto the Lord." So that word submit and submitting, which, that can be taken completely out of context, especially by ladies who aren't Christians and who aren't married. It's like, I'm never going to marry a Christian guy. I don't think I got submit stuff, because husbands, even to this day, even in the 21st century, there are a lot of men out there, Christian, non-Christian alike, they completely malign and misuse that word submit. And, so now I need to clarify that just real quick. What quantifies submit, wives submitted to your husbands, is found in verse 25 of Ephesians 5. That says that husbands, love your wife, even as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. So that's what verse 22, wives submit to your husbands, is predicated upon. Mm-hmm. Is that husbands, you're to love your wives even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. So that Christ, he willingly, by his own volition, his own accord, he laid his life down in order for the establishment and the preservation of the church, which of course is the redeemed of the Lord, the body of Christ, those who are born again, not the entire world. So that's the model that husbands are to take, is that you willingly lay down your life for the preservation, for the establishment, the continuation and preservation of your wife. Because, in the Word of God declares that there is a love that's stronger than death. And that's agape love. And that's the kind of love that husbands are to have for their wives, and of course wives for their husband. But the husbands lead the way. But back to that just real quick, like there again, that give and take, it ties in with submitting of Ephesians 5, is because that word submit, it means to voluntarily, so there's a voluntary action, to voluntarily accept and give in to the other.
So I think the foundation, it keeps boiling it down. Like you said, you're good at getting to the root of it. It boils down to a foundation built on God.
Yeah, absolutely. Mutual love,
That's
mutual
a given
respect.
for us. That's,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying
Yeah.
that, because to us that is.
But I think for a lot of
given.
people, especially that aren't in
Yeah.
church, they want to know the secret sauce, the key ingredient.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the key right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 'Cause-
Everything builds from there.
Because what God has brought together, let no man
Amen.
put asunder.
Yeah.
So it's when God is put first in that marriage, and it's built upon the immovable fortress of Christ, you're still going to have rough patches. You're still going to have difficulties.
Can we talk about those?
Yeah,
real
life's going to throw stuff at you, but you know, in the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus taught that in that parabolic form, and a lot of metaphors combined within that, and you know, by now we're in Matthew chapter 7, when he said, you build your house upon a rock. You notice this, you know, the wise person and the foolish person. One built their house upon sand, the foolish person, as we all know that. We were taught ever since we were children, if you grew up in church. And then the wise person, they built their house upon a rock. Now notice this, both the foolish person and even the wise person also signified someone who was godly, following after the principles of God. The storms of life came to both of them. So just because the one was wise and righteous and served God, it doesn't mean the storms didn't come. Because Jesus made it clear, even the one that built their house upon the rock, of course, that rock is a metaphor for Christ, because he's symbolized as a rock in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. So when Jesus taught that, he's saying, look, even this man, he built his life upon a rock, and everything that pertained to his life, his marriage, raising his children, etc. And the storms still came, the winds beat against what he built. The winds assailed it. The rains came, the floods even came. But it stood.
Okay, so I asked Mom earlier. She has the answers already written down. We're gonna kind of play like an old school newlywed game here. So we're gonna go through the different decades of your marriage, love songs that you had at each decade.
Okay.
So let's see if your answer matches hers.
So music
Oh,
is
you-
obviously very important. He's taught us all a lot about music. And,
lot.
And
You conspired
he's
against
given
me.
us all a song. So he gave you a song. What was your song?
Rod Stewart, have I told you lately that I love you? When I was littler, it was Butterfly Kisses.
Yeah, but as you grew
When
up,
we were really little.
but-
But it was always the
Yeah.
haven't
and
told you
one of
lately.
the coolest experiences we had together was when the three of us got to go hear Rod Stewart.
I was living in Colorado, and I
yeah.
met you guys out there in Vegas. I didn't have kids at the
Yeah.
time. Good time to do it.
And there was, between the three of us, not a dry eye
No.
when he started singing Have I Told You Lately That I Love You. So you've given us all songs.
Core memory for sure.
You started giving the grandkids songs, and it's just, I love that. That's one of the things you've done for us. You've taken us all on deep dives and expanded our capacity in the area of classic rock and roll and country, and it's been great. I think I've probably shared a little bit more classical music with you, and maybe a little
Oh,
bit of
yes.
jazz.
Oh, yes.
But that's okay. We
And I am thankful for
This
it.
morning, actually, Moxie
Yes.
was singing to Booney. She was going, "You make me so
Oh, that's her
very
song.
happy." Yeah,
you
it was
sang
so
that to
cute.
Yeah.
her. Okay, so the songs through the decades.
Okay, so your
we-
first
yeah.
decade of marriage. What would you say?
I've written them down. Let's see if you're right. So shall I show you, or shall I show the camera? What shall I do? Our first decade. All right? Is that what
First
you want?
decade. Yes.
Well, that would have been your song. It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside.
Ding 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 ding.
You're right.
Oh, I
Good
can read
job.
through. Oh, yeah.
Your song, Elton John.
I'm not one of those who can easily hide. Yeah.
Keep going.
Oh, I can sing the whole thing, but I don't want to punish
So he
people.
gave this song to me when we were dating the summer. Was it that summer? At the end of that summer?
Oh,
It was.
Was it that, or was it the following summer?
No, it was this summer.
I think it was.
And toward the end of the summer, we realized that we were more than friends.
Yeah.
And he took me on a picnic to the lake, and he said he had a song for me, and he sang this whole song.
I didn't sing it. You only, I got through
Well,
the
I
first
got a little
verse and the
uncomfortable.
chorus. Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's good.
But it was like, that kind of sounds cheesy. You know, not
Oh,
that
it was
cheesy.
not cheesy.
It just kind of came out, just how it was,
Yeah.
how it was wafting through
It was just
the
beautiful.
atmosphere.
And if I'm anywhere in the world and I
It's
hear
a
this
little
song,
bit
I will
funny.
just stop and drop right there.
Well, same for me. So
Yeah. Okay, good. You got that one.
That line says, I'd buy a big house where we both could live. So I never could afford it, so I just built it.
There you go. There you
Because I
go.
couldn't pay someone to, so it's like, yeah, I'll build it.
Yeah.
even better.
And
Yeah, that's good. You got it.
save all kinds of money.
Okay, that's easy. Let's see
Yeah.
if you can get the next one.
Okay.
Okay, second decade.
Wow, I mean, that's such a broad range, you know.
Can I give him a hint?
So
I'll give you a hint.
now we're in
Do you want a
the
hint?
90s.
Robin Hood.
Oh, well, yeah, you know, probably, I was going to go with everything I do it for you. I know. You know, I
Yeah,
forgot.
that's it.
Yeah, it was Bryan Adams, wasn't it?
Bryan Adams.
Bryan Adams.
Bryan
Everything
Adams.
I do it for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Never-
listened to this song?
There's no.
Yeah, of course. You had the CD in the
Do
car.
people still do this? Do you do this? Do you have a song? Do you and Joe have a song? Do people not do this
Joe and I have
anymore?
totally different taste in music. Totally. So,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of people do. I send him songs I like, and he'll read the lyrics, and he's like, good lyrics, but he doesn't like the way they're composed.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're 2 for 2.
Like you, yeah.
You're
Yeah,
two
so
for
that
two.
was 90s, yeah.
Okay, the next decade.
Yeah, so we're
In the 2000s.
turn of the century, 2000. Wow, I could, you know, I got 4 or 5 right now. To narrow that down to one, huh? Just one. Wow.
We'll just
Um,
give it a whirl.
country or
No.
was it more like
Classic rock.
Classic rock. Yeah, I'm actually stumped. If you're going, yeah.
How do we give him a
Well,
hint?
You give me a little
don't
hint.
know
I
if
know
I
I
Don
get it.
Henley.
Oh yeah, Love Will Keep Us Alive.
Love will keep us alive.
Which he actually didn't sing it though.
Right,
But
the
it was
other guy sang
yeah.
it.
But
Love will keep us.
yeah,
You got it though.
but that yeah.
That would
You
be
know.
very hard because I'm sure
I know.
you've got
Don Henley meant nothing to me, so he got it.
Okay.
Love will, their bass player. Sing it.
Yeah.
What is his name right now? Keep us alive.
Okay,
Oh,
So is that
the
the
long
third
hair.
decade?
3
So
for
it's-
3. Last one.
Okay.
I'll cry for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Climb the highest mountain. So now we're in 2010 to 2020. Wow, that could be.
Oh, I know. She used it on an Instagram story when you guys went to California.
He doesn't. He's not on Instagram.
I know.
He doesn't. So I'll give you a
Well,
hint.
I think,
I will give you
which
a
of
hint.
course it actually
for
came out in the 70s, 80s.
Park City.
Well, it probably going to go
As a
with
hint.
Baby Hold On to Me, Eddie Money.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
You got it.
Baby, hold on to me.
Baby, hold on to me, Eddie Money. I love it.
Whatever will be, will be.
That's it. 4 decades.
Oh, I
Good
got all
job.
4.
You got all 4.
I need a little help with the eagle because
Fair
I could have
enough.
gone a lot of different directions
That's
on
fair
that. but
enough.
yeah.
Are there others you would add to that?
No, it'd come down to it. That would have been yeah.
These are 4 really good ones.
Very
Yeah.
I
good.
think everybody should have some
Love will
songs in their
keep us
repertoire that they love.
And how
Yeah.
cool that you knew them by the decade. I mean, that.
Yeah. Well, they kind of spoke to us in each of those decades.
Yeah.
It spoke to us. They might not have been written in that decade, but it became real to us in that decade.
Yeah.
It was good. It's fun.
Okay.
More to
So,
come. I wonder what the next one will be.
Is that a wrap?
Well, I'm glad we did this. I know I've had a front row seat, and I know that you guys have been the ultimate role models of a healthy, happy, successful marriage. So I'll vouch for you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And hopefully this helped. Hopefully we gave some insight. Hopefully through all of this, people can build even that much of a stronger, happier marriage.
Yes, we're cheering you on.
Yeah, so we desire that for all of you by all means, and we pray that your marriage like never before continue to burgeon and strengthen. And there again, especially in our day and times we're living in, we want your life, your marriage, to be happily ever after.
Amen.
I think God does too. I know He does. God bless you all.